You Booked It, episode 26. Hey, entertainers and performers of the world. I'm your host, Dane Reese, and welcome to You Booked It, where I chat with inspiring entertainers 7 days a week. By digging into their journey, we're going to discover everything you need to do to be a successful entertainer. You know, because training usually skips that part about how to actually make your skills work for you in the real world. Fellow entertainers, my drive here at You Booked It is to share the inspiring and incredible journeys of successful entertainers. We are here to support your journey. So go to youbookeditpodcast.com and join the You Booked It email community where we dig deep into truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help you book that next audition, submission, or gig. If you enjoy this free podcast, please show your support and search for You Booked It on Apple Podcast or your favorite podcast app where you can subscribe so you don't miss an episode, leave a rating and review. And to show our appreciation for your, fingers crossed, 5-star rating and review, I will give you a shout out on an upcoming episode. And now, let's do this. Okay, let's get started. I am excited to introduce my guest today, William Thomas Evans, also known as Bill. Are you ready for this, Bill?
I am.
Beautiful. Bill most recently played Papa/Sims in the powerful play The Nether at Florida Studio Theater, Max Prince in Laughter on the 23rd floor at St. Michael's Playhouse, and Mr. Mushnick in Little Shop at ACT of Connecticut. Prior to that, he was in the new off-Broadway musical Desperate Measures at New World Stages, coming to that directly after 2.5 wonderful years in Las Vegas with Baz at the Palazzo. Original Broadway casts include Camelot, the 1993 revival, The Scarlet Pimpernel, versions 1 and 2, and A Tale of Two Cities, 6 national tours, including Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, the pre-Broadway version of Jekyll and Hyde, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, and 8 years as Santa Claus in the Radio City Christmas Spectacular, performing for over 2.5 million people. He was in The Fantastics off-Broadway for 2 years, as well as Hal Prince's Candide and Pirates of Penzance with the New York City Opera at Lincoln Center. He was on 2 seasons as Senator Lamar Farkas on Alpha House, which you can watch on Amazon Prime. He has also appeared on The Good Fight on CBS and the movie Made for Each Other. He has also performed in 48 states. Bill, that is a quick intro of who you are and what you've done, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, fill in the gaps, if you will, who you are, where you're from, where you are currently calling home, and a little bit more about what you do as a professional in the entertainment industry.
I'm from Oakton, Virginia, and I went to school at Bowdoin College. I was a biochemistry major, and that was up in Maine. And after college, I wanted to go to Columbia Film School, grad school, to become an editor. But during that summer before, I got my first musical, which was West Side Story, and I played Tony, and I kind of got bit by the bug.
Yeah.
And I fell in love. Who wouldn't fall in love with the music from West Side Story? And I fell in love with the business. Did not go to Columbia, and have been acting ever since. I live in Jersey City, New Jersey, right across the river, above Hoboken. So I'm about a mile away from the Lincoln Tunnel, and I've been out here for about 15 years. And before that, I lived probably in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different places in New York City, starting with the upper West Side,
Yeah.
and then all over. And I've been an actor for 30 years professionally.
That's great. Can you talk about a little bit your transition or that switch from, I mean, you said chemistry and things like this versus the arts. How did that come about?
It was kind of all mapped out for me. by my own accord. I wanted to be a doctor for so long, and I went to Bowdoin, and they have a great science department, and so I was studying, and I think maybe my spring semester of freshman year, I was walking, I guess, after doing a study with a whole bunch of people, and I was coming back to my dorm room, and I heard some music that I had never really heard before. And I went in there, and it was from my friend Susan Perez, who I credit to this day for introducing me. But the musical was Les Miserables, and I think I stayed in her room, her dorm room, till like maybe 7 in the morning,
Wow.
and that might have been at maybe midnight. And we listened to that album, I think maybe 2 or 3 times, and maybe song on repeat like 50 times. It was the most magical thing I had ever heard, and that was kind of my introduction into musical theater, and I mean I loved it. It changed my life.
Absolutely. And what great music and a great musical to have it be the one that I guess connected you with the entire industry.
Yeah, I mean, like I played guitar, so I played guitar in church, and I even continued doing that in at Bowdoin. But I never at Bowdoin I actually sang because there was no one to sing. But all growing up, there was the choir, but I would just play the guitar, and I never sang, so I never really knew that I could, even though I loved music. And it was yeah, it was really wild. And then to start and to put the cassette in and then just go for a drive, and for a 3 hour drive, but just be singing at the top of your lungs.
Yeah,
And yeah, it was Les Miserables that got me involved and interested in music.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to the next section here. And look, I am a sucker for a good quote. What is your favorite quote you'd like to share with our listeners?
I think there might be there might be two.
That's good.
I always think when I think about this question, I think about I have two tattoos on my body, and I'm thinking about getting a third. And I wanted to get a third on my kind of forearm, and I wanted to get it in light gray ink, so it's not really noticeable to anybody else but me. But the two quotes that I've always wanted to put on there, and it was the quotes were not to be written in English. I think they were going to be written in like a makeup language from Star Wars, or Elfin language, or Gaelic, because I'm Irish. And one was "Believe in your dreams," and that's something that has stuck with me, forever, and especially because of this business. But I remember when I decided to become an actor, my mom gave me a card that said "Believe in your dreams," and about 8 months after I moved to New York, I got my first Broadway show, and so I've kept that card that she sent me. I still have it to this day. And because this business is tough, and so believing in your dreams is never give that up. And I'm an old guy now, and I never try to let that quote go by. And also, there's one more. So the other one was "Don't f up." And I kind of wanted to so that no one could read it, but I wanted to have that in either Gaelic or or like some kind of Star Wars language. But always before the audition to happen, to look down and kind of smile. Puts it into perspective that it's just an audition. Don't mess it up, and it has a little bit of humor to it. But to keep things in perspective. And so those were my two quotes.
Absolutely. Because while what we're doing is super high caliber, it's serious, it is a professional career. This is how we make our living. We're also at the same time we're singing and dancing or acting.
Yeah,
It's supposed to be fun. It's
yeah.
supposed to be light and enjoyable and entertaining. And to not lose sight of that.
Absolutely. If you're at your final callback and there are 30, 40 people in the room, um, and you're about to sing and you're about to do your acting sides, and you look down at your arm or remember the quote and it says "Don't f up," it kind of puts it into perspective and puts you in a good mood. And
For
uh,
sure.
yeah, But the most important one is really believe in your dreams, because to be in this business, you have to constantly have dreams, because you can reach some of your dreams. You can, fulfill some of your dreams, and then you have to come up with new dreams. And I love that about this business. So
I agree.
yeah.
Well, let's move to the next section now. So, Bill, of course, you are an entertainer. I am an entertainer. And I think that you'd agree that this industry is one of the most subjective, brutally honest, personally emotional industries in existence. And you know as well as I that in order to create and to have a successful career in this industry like you're having now takes a lot of dedication, a lot of hard work. And while, of course, there is an outrageous amount of fun and excitement being on stage, being that performer, there are also our fair share of obstacles and challenges and failures we are going to have to experience, and we're going to have to learn to move forward through if we want to continue doing this as our careers. So tell us, what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
I had mentioned that Les Mis was so important to me, getting into this business. And at one point in my career, I was going for my final callback for the tour for Marius, and there was no audition. There was no studio. I was going to the offices of Cameron McIntosh. And it was, I was like, oh my God, here it is. This is it. And then and then you're shown the itinerary, it's like, it, this is my ultimate dream. And after one song, I was let go, and I remember sobbing in the elevator. And everyone was the casting director, the piano accompanist. Everyone was shocked. They didn't know what happened. To this day, I never knew what happened. There was no explanation. They just probably went with someone, from their files that maybe came back in the day before my so-called audition. Who knows?
Right.
Anyway, I didn't get the job, and I was devastated. Uh, and it was really tough to overcome that. A week later, I got the original cast of Jekyll and Hyde. This would have been a replacement in Les Miserables, and a week later, I'm still devastated. I started auditioning for Jekyll and Hyde, and then I got the original pre-Broadway cast for that. So, there's lots of lessons in there, but that was a big time failure, and it really affected me. And then I had to grow from that. And there's a lesson, in that growth. But I had to grow from that, and it was really a great experience because
Yeah,
of that.
that's a great story. And to be so close and then still to this day you say you still have no idea what happened, and like you said, it could be as simple as someone that they had on their books, just showed back up for whatever reason, and they're like, all right, we're going to do this. And it's such a subjective industry, isn't it?
Yeah, well, there that it, one of the lessons from that was, I mean, that was my dream. You know what I mean? I learned about this business because of Les Miserables. I moved to the city with the ultimate goal of being in Les Miserables. I crashed a Fontaine audition. I'm assuming everyone listening to this is musical theater, so we don't need to explain who Fontaine is. But there was a Fontaine audition, and it was all women. And I knocked on the door, fresh faced, and I was like, "Hi, I'd like to sing." And somehow there was an opening back then, and it would never happen these days, but there was an opening, and they were like, I was cute. So they were like, okay. And I went in there and I sang, and I ended up being in there like 20 minutes, no lie.
Wow.
I sang all of Marius's songs. And that's where, and I was like, and so I walked out feeling like there was no job at that point because it was a Fontaine call. And, and then that started my Les Mis journey. And then through the years, I auditioned maybe 2 or 3 more times, and then this is like 2 or 3 years, because then I ended up getting a Broadway show, Camelot. And so then after that, finally, after 2 or 3 auditions, I finally got the call saying, listen, there is no audition just come in, and then you know the story from then. But it was crazy depressing because that was my dream. And so you had to realize that, follow that quote, believe in your dreams, not singular, but plural is the quote. And so this was a, perfect example where you had to kind of change in this business. You have to rethink things. And uh, although it devastated me, there are a million other musicals out there. And
Yeah.
I had to pick yourself up and start auditioning again. And then I ended up getting something brand new and original, which also changed my life. So there are different there are lots of branches on a tree.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's move to this next section to a time that I like to call your spotlight moment. That one moment in time that you realized, yes, I'm going to be an entertainer for a living. Or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing in the entertainment industry. Tell us about that.
There are a couple moments that stood out to me. The first one was one of my first vocal teachers. She's not with us anymore, and she used to teach in DC. Before I moved, after I did West Side Story, I kind of got bit by the bug, and I stayed in DC. And I started there. At that time, there were so many dinner theaters in DC and other theaters, and so I just started working consistently in DC. And so I wanted to take voice lessons, and everyone was studying with Rosemary. And so I got in, and when I sang for her, and I have it on tape because she used to record all the lessons and then give you the cassette at the end. And when I sang for her for the first time, she, she cried, and she said that she had never really heard this voice in a long, long time, and that I needed to be doing this. And she canceled her dinner plans, and then talked with me for another hour after that, and kind of started mapping out a plan for me. And I studied with her for 6 years, and she mapped out a plan about how I was going to move to New York and stuff like that. But yeah, when that voice lesson, that voice class, when she first heard me, and she cried, and she was like, this is what you need to be doing. That kind of changed my life. And then there was another moment in my career, but it was kind of like mid career. I think it was around 2000, and was casted. I was cast in Radio City Christmas Spectacular as Santa Claus. And when there was one point, it's the Radio City show that I did. It's Santa Claus has 8 numbers to do, 4 big, huge production numbers, and then 4 little small numbers. And it's kind of like a Santa number, and then a Rockette, and then a Rockette number, and then a Santa number, and then a Rockette number, and then at the end, the Santa, and then everybody comes together at the end.
Yeah.
And there was one time that I was just there, and it might have been like maybe 4,000. It might have been a 4,000 seat auditorium. And I was there by myself, standing center stage, arms out, singing. And I kind of came off stage and kind of cried a little bit. And I kind of learned how to just stand center stage and be a star. Not meaning stars in like, everybody look at me star. I mean like star, standing center stage. No one else is on stage. All the spotlight's on you. And to hold your ground. So I don't mean that in a cocky way. I mean that in a, oh my God, can I do this kind of way?
Yeah, because you have to really own that space. It's
If
yours.
it's either yours or it's not, or you're just renting it. But I owned it, and I can never. But it took a lot of work, and I can't thank. To this day, I can never thank Linda Haberman, the director of the Radio City Rockettes, for giving me the job and teaching me how to stand center stage and command that. And so at that moment, I also realized that wow, I'm definitely in the right business for me.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, let's piggyback on that question quick, and let's talk about your number one booked it moment. Walk us through that day, the auditions and callbacks, if those happen to be part of it, what was going on in your life, and what about that moment makes it your favorite booked it moment.
Listen, when you're in this business, you almost every job you get is a great booked it moment.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Especially if you're on your fifth callback, or your fifth callback on this job, and your third rejection, on other jobs. So, every kind of booked it moment has its special place. But there is one that was pretty special. And the result is something that normally doesn't happen, or you hear it every once in a while. And when you do, it's really special. But I was auditioning for John Patrick Shanley, who won a Oscar for Moonstruck and a Pulitzer Prize for Doubt. Was doing a new play with music, and it was called Romantic Poetry, and the music was by the original music was by Henry Krieger of Dreamgirls. And so there was this part of a deli guy, and it was the reverse kind of Romeo and Juliet. The deli guy was the one breaking up with the girl. And so it was a great scene. I had not learned any of the music yet. I just sang my stuff and went through audition one. And then they sent me some more sides for audition 2 and the music. And so then I learned that and sang that. And then it was my third and final callback, and everyone was in the room. And so I got to the audition place, excuse me, and there was a young lady playing sitting out there, and she was younger, and the part of the girl, the opposite of the Romeo and Juliet. I mean Romeo and Juliet because I was on the balcony and the girl was on the street level. And I was like, "Are you reading for the girl part?" And she was like, "Yes." And what was her name? I said, "Hi, I'm Bill," and her name was Patina, and it turned out to be Patina Miller, Tony winner Patina Miller from Pippin.
Wow.
And so we were there, and there was no one else outside in the room. And we were like, "God, you want to, you're reading for the girl?" And he said, "Yeah." "Are you reading for the guy?" "Yeah." Let's read together. Let's practice. So we're out there practicing, the sides, which was great that we both got to do that. And then, 10 minutes rolled by, and the casting director peeked out, and he's like, "Oh, you guys are reading. That's so cute. Keep on doing that." And we're like, "Okay, great." So then like another 10 minutes rolled by, and then he came out again. He's like, did you guys read it together? Are you guys happy?" And they're like, "Yeah." He's like, "Great. We're going to bring you in together." Oh, well, that
Oh,
was,
okay.
how great is that? So we went in, and everyone was in the room, and, John Patrick Shanley was there in the center. Henry was, right next to him, and everyone else. And so we sang, we read the side, and then he gave us some adjustments, and John Patrick Shanley was directing the piece as well. He does that a lot with all of his original pieces. He directs the first kind of version of it, and then someone else takes over. Although I think he directed Joe versus the Volcano. I think he also wrote it and directed that movie. But anyway, so we did the sides, and then we came to the song. And then Henry went out and played the song for us. So Henry came around and got into the piano, and then we stayed around the piano, and then we sang it, and then with him, and then we kind of moved out to the center of the room, and then we sang it again. And there was the big, big, big end number, the big, big, big end note,
Yep.
and we were hitting it, and then we just didn't end quite right. And we both looked at each other, and we're like, oh, no, we could do it better. We didn't practice that outside. And everyone laughed. And John Patrick Shanley looked over at Henry, and Henry nodded. And we didn't know what that was. And John said, "Come here, you two." And so then we started walking towards, him. He was behind a table, and everyone was behind him. And we started walking towards him. And when we got about between where we were and to where he was, he said, "You both got the job."
Wow.
And, we kind of screamed and jumped up and down and hugged everybody. And then when we left, we both cried. you don't really hear that a lot. A lot of the times you get the job, the end of the day, or maybe the next day, maybe a week later from your agent.
Yeah.
But this time, we heard in the room. We got to call our agents and say, "Hey, you're gonna be getting a call." But it was really magical and special because it doesn't happen at all in this business. And then to B, to come from John Patrick Shanley, Oscar Pulitzer Prize winner, Tony winner Henry Krieger, to tell you that you have a job right in the room is pretty spectacular, and I'll never forget that. And I've been offered shows without auditioning. That's nice too. But this really was something special. And when you've been, I've been in this business 30 years, and occasionally you'll hear stories about this, and literally every single person has the same reaction. To this day, it's one of their still best booked it moments, hearing exactly when you got the job in the room right after the audition.
Yeah, I love that. Well, let's take a moment to talk about the present. What projects are you working on now? What are you looking forward to? And of course, being amidst this global pandemic, how do you see this industry moving forward in the next couple of years?
I don't have anything now. Everything that I was supposed to start rehearsal in June, I was booked from June to the end of October in 3 different shows, and they're all canceled. Uh, one of them has been postponed exactly a year, so I already know that I have a job next June. But yeah, I have no clue. So I'm doing nothing now other than some great podcasts, some doing some video zooming and projects for theater, for their virtual galas that they're having. Some singing on projects online wise, but other than that, no. We're so hit by this virus that it's not a little, it's very scary. But yeah, hopefully everything will be fine next summer, and hopefully the other shows that I had are going to be postponed as well and not full on canceled. I'm assuming that everything is just it's like a year is kind of put on pause,
Yeah.
and that seasons that were going to be this season are just going to be moved to next year. I know one of my jobs, that's what happened. They just moved the entire season to next year. So hopefully that'll happen with everything. And once we get back to normal, then hopefully, theater will always bounce back. I'm not worried about that. But yeah, it's a little scary.
For sure. Well, it's time to move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview, and I call it the Grease Lightning Round. I am going to ask you a handful of questions. I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible, one after another. Are you ready?
Oh no. Yes, I am.
All right, first question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career as an entertainer?
The difference between wanting to be a doctor versus wanting to be an entertainer. A doctor is a job. I didn't know that what an entertainer could be. The difference. I was a biochemistry major, but I love music. Back and forth, back and forth. And then I sang on stage the first time, and that changed my life. So,
Great. And second question, what is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
no is not a bad word.
Absolutely. And the third question, what is something that is working for you now? Or if you'd like to go pre COVID, what was working for you before our industry went on pause?
Well, I mean, you have to. No is not a bad word. You're going to go on tons and tons of auditions, and you have to know that you're going to get told no a lot. You have to be prepared, so prepared, and that's something I never. That's something I wasn't always on top of my game, and so knowing your work, doing your work, going in the room and being happy with what you did when you leave the room makes all the difference in the world, regardless of what the outcome is.
Agreed. Great. Well, fourth question, What is the best resource, whether that is a book, a movie, a YouTube video, a podcast, maybe it's a piece of technology that you found is helping your career right now?
It's not only right now, but well, not way back when I started because it wasn't around. But there are, I love resources like on YouTube. You can watch master classes by people not only in the business, but in any walks of life, but in the business, you can watch master classes. There's a great YouTube thing on Michael Caine teaching a class. There is a YouTube version, especially during this time, that the National Theater has put out performances, live performances on YouTube that you can watch. And in New York, since I've been an actor, there is the public library where they have all performances taped from Broadway or off Broadway shows that they have done for Lincoln Center. So you can go and watch. It's knowledge, it's taking shows in, it's hearing what other people do, listening to the master classes on YouTube, watching the plays on from the National Theater on YouTube, and going to the library and seeing, Ethel Merman, seeing old shows and how they were done. Just to expand your knowledge. And I love that. And I use the public library to this day. If I'm going in, for I was going to go in for Bye Bye Birdie, for example. And one of my things that I was going to do before I go to the audition, I had never seen Bye Bye Birdie. I had seen the TV version, but I had never seen Bye Bye Birdie. So I was going to go into Lincoln Center Library and I was going to watch, the production of it and see what was done, how it was done, what the show was about. And so I love that. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but about the Lincoln Center Library, but that is such a valuable resource, especially if you're in New York City. You go there and you can watch the original musical and see how it was done.
I would venture to say that there's a lot of people living in New York that have no idea about that resource and that it's completely free and it's available to you.
Yeah.
And I think that's massive knowledge and advice for anyone listening. And the fifth question: if you had to start your career from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected from your career in this industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently or would you keep it the same?
I would do things differently. I would tell myself, number one, don't smoke. I was, I just recently stopped smoking cigarettes. I've been smoke free for a year and 7 months. And when you're young, you know, you see, when you're young and you're invincible and, it's not going to hurt you. Yeah, it did. Smoking took its toll on my voice. Yeah. So I would tell myself, don't be so cocky that it's not going to affect you. It is going to affect you. Stop smoking. And the second thing I would do when I was young, it was all about, I was a biochemistry major, so I didn't study this. It would be to get in class right away and study. Because when I was young, I was kind of cocky. I had a really uh, great and workable voice, usable voice in different shows, and I was kind of I was cute, and I kind of was cocky about that, and I didn't realize that there were other things that were more important. How about working on the sides? How about learning about the character? How about really knowing the sides before your callback, rather than just winging it? So I would tell myself to get in the class, that there is an equal side to being a good singer, and it's called being a good actor, being a good listener on stage. And I would tell myself to do that, so that would have started early, because that came later on in life. All of a sudden, I realized when I did my first role, I was like, "What is this? You can sing, which I love, but you can speak and create this character." And it was a magical moment for me. And yeah, I would tell my young self to guess what? There are several parts to an audition. Look good, look as good as you can. Don't go in disheveled. Sing your butt off. but know the character and work on the sides and be prepared on that end too.
That is fantastic advice. And the last question: what is the golden nugget knowledge drop you have learned from your successful career in the industry that you would like to leave with our listeners?
No is not a bad answer. No is not a bad word. You're going to get no a lot. So you can't let that affect you. You're going to so you need to work on you. You need to do your work so that when you go in a room and you come out, you're happy with what you did, regardless of the outcome. And tying into my quote, believe in your dreams, because your dreams are going to change. Your dreams are constantly going to evolve in this business. And that is a great thing in this business. Change your dreams. I wanted Les Mis my entire life. I didn't get Les Mis, but I got the original Jekyll and Hyde. I had to switch my dreams. Um, it's constantly evolving in this business. As the older I get, I have a bucket list of roles that I want to play. So I'm constantly changing my dreams, and no matter how old I get, I will can always believe in them.
I love that.
So
Thank you.
yeah,
And to wrap this interview up, Bill, it is time for you to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? Is there anything you'd like to promote?
I'm on Facebook, but my Facebook is there isn't really. My Facebook is just for me and my friends. I'm not on any other social media at all. I'm kind of the old school. I'm one of the old schoolers who doesn't do that. I like to slip into my characters, so there's no social media, so you don't really have a problem watching what I do.
Great. Well, Bill, it has been wonderful to have you on this interview. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. My one call to action for you is to go to youbookeditpodcast.com and join our free email community, where we dig deep into a continually growing resource of truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help you advance your entertainment career. Don't miss an episode. We have a new guest 7 days a week. Search for You Booked It on Apple Podcast or your favorite podcast app and subscribe today. All the best to you. We'll see you tomorrow.